everyone, welcome to this episode of Ebony's Black Connect in partnership with Nationwide. I'm Ida Johannes, the Senior Brand Manager here at Ebony, and today's conversation is on Black home ownership, where we'll address the major inequities faced by the Black community and speak with our subject matter experts on the solution-based methods for future achievement. The opinions today and responses are provided of those of the guests and not provided by Nationwide. Joining me today, we have Ms. Lisa Rice, President and CEO of the National Fair Housing Alliance. And we have joining us Dr. Andre M. Perry, a Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution, a Scholar in Residence at the American University, and a Professor of Practice at Economics at the Washington University. Thank you both for joining us today. So lately, we've seen loads of conversation online debating the value of traditional assets, i.e. home ownership, as a means of wealth building. In your opinion, Lisa, is there a value in home ownership, especially for the Black community?
Home ownership is the number way that families build and sustain wealth in this nation. We don't call home ownership the American dream for nothing, right? There's an important reason why home ownership is a major cornerstone of wealth. And for most people, your home equity comprises a huge amount of your net worth. But for Black and Latino households, actually, home ownership, home equity is a much larger component of our net worth. For Black households, for example, your home equity can be as much as 2/3 of your net worth. So it's really foundational to building financial independence and being able to pass on wealth to future generations. The problem is that the governmental programs that were put in place to support land and home ownership throughout the course of our nation's history were not made available in a fair and equitable fashion for people of color. And that has created huge gaps, huge wealth gaps and huge home ownership gaps in our nation. But we're working to change that. We have changed it, and we're continuing to try to change it so that people can build a strong financial future for themselves and for their families.
Home ownership is very beneficial when it comes to increasing intergenerational mobility and improving economic welfare of minority communities over time. However, we're seeing Black home ownership continues to be on the decline. Lisa, why do you think that is?
I think we all were alarmed in 2019 when the census data revealed that the Black home ownership rate was still declining. And was in this mode of ever declining since the Great Recession, and that actually the Black-white homeownership gap had grown to be as large as it was in 1890. But the Bureau has fine-tuned that data, just released it very recently, and we have some great news, and that is that homeownership rates, not only in terms of the rate, but also numbers, grew for all market segments since 2019. But importantly, Ida, homeownership grew for Black and Latino populations. So we now have this reversal of that really horrific trend. The homeownership rate for Black people actually increased by 2 percentage points from 2019 to 2021. And the homeownership rate for Latinos increased about the same. So the Black homeownership rate was around 42% in 2019. It had dropped as low as that. It's now at 44%. We've added about 262,000 more Black homeowners over that time span. This didn't happen by accident. It was intentional. We have this increase in Black homeownership because when the COVID pandemic hit, groups like the National Fair Housing Alliance, Brookings, with the great work that Andre has been doing, and many other organizations, we were intentional about making sure that at the federal level, at state levels and local levels, we would implement policies that would support and grow Black home ownership.
Do you have any thoughts on it, Dr. Andre Perry?
Yeah, I agree that the spark, I don't want to say spike, because 2 percentage points is huge in relative terms. So I'll say a spark. That it was because of the advocacy of groups, organizations throughout the country, individual homeowners who demanded a fair shake, and renters demanding a fair shake. And it happened, that advocacy happened to meet opportunity. Certainly the pandemic forced a lot of people to save money during that period. In addition, let's remember, particularly millennials saw an interesting spike, and that coincided with student loan freezes during that period. And the reason why I mention that is that if you eliminate discrimination, if you really work on discrimination and you give people resources, we can see more increases in home ownership if we really want to. And so we don't necessarily, we don't want for another pandemic, certainly, but we should want for policies that increase, that are improve individuals' debt to income ratio. And that's essentially what the pandemic allowed us to do somewhat. Most recently, FHFA announced that they were changing credit scoring moving forward. Why is that important? Because it will enable banks to expand their special credit mortgage programs. You heard Bank of America announce that there was a special program in certain markets, I think 5 markets, where they're going to allow for mortgages without down payments to happen. They also will incorporate new alternative means of credit scoring, and not to get too technical, but because the Freddie and Fannie incorporated rental payments and underwriting, the banks will then be able to sell those mortgages on the secondary market moving forward.
I love that both of you guys mentioned helpful policies and how those are so instrumental in helping Black borrowers. Is there any other ones that you would say are very that we should call out and that people should know about when trying to level the playing field and ensure that they can meet traditional credit and loan requirements for home ownership?
Know what your credit score is and work on paying down your debt, work on eliminating those high balances that you may have on your credit cards and your other loans, because that is going to be most impactful when it comes to what your credit score is. The other thing that's important is to have some savings. And you want to have a cushion to fall back on. And the other thing that I really advise people to do, which unfortunately in the Black community in particular, we don't do enough, and that's shop around. For so many decades, Black people have been told no because we were experiencing redlining and discrimination. It wasn't because we weren't worthy, it was because we were experiencing discrimination. So Black people, research shows, actually value getting a yes more than they do reducing their interest rate. Algorithms are so sophisticated nowadays that they can actually pick up when you're shopping around. And so when you're shopping, you go to that next lender and then the next lender, you're much more likely to get a better rate. But when you're shopping, shop in a 2-week time span so that your credit score does not take a hit. Because the more inquiries you have on your credit, the more your credit score will go down. But if you shop in a 2-week time span, the algorithms only pick it up as one hit. And then the other thing I encourage people to do is to really seek out an excellent credit counseling agency. Most Black people in the United States of America do not own a home. That is not true for other segments.
These new credit scoring systems are really going to benefit the people who are doing everything right. With that said, we're going to still have to save. We're still going to have to shop around, as Lisa stated. We're still going to have to assume that there's discrimination. The value gap that we see in Black communities in terms of the price of their home is lower value. That's not just because of appraisers. It's also because lenders are taking advantage of Black people, because real estate agents are taking advantage of Black people. And so you should assume that there's discrimination in the markets, and you got to be on top of your game. You got to work with counselors. You got to work with other homeowners. You got to work with national organizations like National Fair Housing. It's built in. Discrimination is built in. And so you really do need advocates for yourself in this process.
Do you guys think, with all of that in mind, that someone would be mortgage ready? Is that what their mortgage ready checklist should look like? Is the credit score we've talked about, being aware of the discrimination that happens? Is there anything else that should they have a right team member on their team when they're going, or should they be speaking with their families? Who are the right people before they make that final decision to purchase?
You want to be a successful homeowner, hang around other people who are successful homeowners too. Believe it or not, there is so much about this homeownership process that you pick up on just by being around your peers who are also homeowners, family members who are also homeowners, coworkers who are homeowners. There are tips that you can pick up on. We do have some resources on our homeownership website. It's called Keys Unlock Dreams. The website is keys.nationalfairhousing.org. Again, that's keys.nationalfairhousing.org. If you click on the resources tab, you'll find resources for consumers and homeowners. But we also have a link to something called the Down Payment Assistance Resource Center. So sometimes we need a little bit of help. You may need down payment assistance. And so we have this tool so you can go and find out what are the down payment assistance programs in your local community that you can access.
So we continue to hear in the news about Black-owned homes being undervalued and appraised for less to comparable white homes. And Dr. Andre, according to a report you co-authored in the Brookings Institution on the devaluation of Black homes, homes of similar quality in neighborhoods with similar amenities are worth 23% less, about $48,000 per home on average, and amounting in $156 billion in cumulative losses in majority Black neighborhoods as compared to those with very few or no Black residents. That's a shocking statistics. 156, excuse me, is a huge shocking number in the billions. So what are the factors that drive down the home values for Black families, and what are practical ways to address this, would you say, Dr. Andre?
What we've discovered is that certainly there is appraisal bias. That comes out of the data. Actually, the Fair Housing Finance Agency just released data. FHFA released data, appraisal data that was not released prior to, which confirmed that homes in Black neighborhoods and that are underpriced by appraisers. Black homeowners who qualify for prime loans get subprime loans. We also know that steering this practice of real estate agents showing potential buyers some neighborhoods based on their race still happens. I'm happy Lisa and I were both part of the movement that led Biden to initiate the Property Appraisal Valuation Equity Task Force, a new task force that brought together the various agencies, relevant agencies of the federal government to work on appraisal bias. We need a similar effort on these other factors that influence home values. Because what's happening is when we do own a home, we are not getting the value we deserve. In addition, the lower value represents a discount of sorts. So if you have higher wealth, you can buy into those neighborhoods and buy up property at a faster rate. That's why you see corporations buying large swaths of property. You see in a tight housing market, when there's fewer supply, young white people with wealth buying in Black neighborhoods nowadays. And so we need values to represent what they are, what they should. But we also need to recognize, this is why these special credit programs are so important. We need renters, people living in Black neighborhoods, to be able to buy homes in those neighborhoods. That's what we need that to happen.
What is housing reform, and what is its role when it comes to fighting the inequity crisis minority communities face?
When you see these gaps, when you see the discrimination, when you see the inequality or the inequity, it's by design. It's not a mistake. It's not a happenstance. It's on purpose. The Homeowners Loan Corporation Act, that organization implemented all of its policies and practices with race-based, race-conscious principles. It institutionalized the system of redlining. It still boggles the mind today that the federal government did this, but they did. They created something called the Residential Security Survey. On that survey, they wanted to know how many Black people are in a given area. In this neighborhood that you're going to go out as a real estate professional, you're going to look at the housing stock, you're going to tell me about the housing stock. And while you're telling me about the housing stock and the infrastructure of a given neighborhood, please tell me how many Black people are in this area. Mm-hmm. I need to know how many Black people are in this area. And every single residential security survey that I've ever seen that indicates that there are Black people in the neighborhood, that area was designated as hazardous. It was given the worst and the lowest rating, and it was color-coded red, hence the term redlining. If there are 2% Black people, if there's 1%, if the population of the neighborhood is only 1% Black, it is given the hazardous rating. And it is denoted on that form that the reason it's getting the hazardous rating is because of the presence of these inharmonious racial groups, Black people. So housing reform is really about dismantling these systems of inequality and inequity and replacing them with structures that are fair and equitable for everyone.
What are the best ways to get locally involved in housing policy reform to create a system that works for everyone? We know you guys are doing the good work for us. How can we get involved in being a part of this change?
We have many, many ways for people to get involved. At the National Fair Housing Alliance, you can join NAFA as an individual member. When you do that, you get access to all of the campaigns that we run, and we're constantly running campaigns in which we have people reach out to members of Congress to advocate for these kinds of equity-based policies that Andre and I have been talking about. And actually, you don't even have to become a member of NAFA. If you just check out our website or join our email list, you'll get access to those campaigns. And we strongly encourage people to respond and engage with their elected officials to push for the kinds of policies that we need to see implemented.
Dr. Andre, do you have anything? Where should people be educating themselves? Is there anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah. This is the critical time we join organizations that are knowledgeable on these issues. So join a local organization. It might be the National Fair Housing Alliance. It might be the local Fair Housing Agency. It might be the NAACP. It might be the Urban League. There are too many outlets for someone to say that they're on an island. You have to join an organization, learn about these issues, because this is not something you can just pick up overnight. You do have to learn and study a bit around the issue. So join. You got to vote. Elections matter, and running for office matters. Join something, vote, talk to your media, and basically organize around increasing home ownership in this country.
That was a perfect way to end. I think it's so important. We all have a role. Media has a role in having conversations just like these. We need to get out there and vote, for all the positions in office and continue to join all these organizations that are doing the good work and are providing all of this information that makes it possible for us, to beat the narrative and change it. So thank you guys. Thank you to our speakers for joining. Thank you for those joining us today online. You can head to ebony.com to learn more about our partnership with Nationwide on all of their equity improvement initiatives. And we just thank you again. Bye now.